Hey, welcome back. As promised, we returned, rain or shine or freeze. I guess are we gonna have a freeze tonight, baby JP? We will be back here talking Rice football today. We're looking ahead at the game against SMU, which is play. Well, I'm learning the Governor's Cup, the Mayor's Cup. There's a cup involved.
Yeah, get your act together, man. It's the Mayor's Cup, and Rice won the last one in 12. So I've not laid eyes on this. It slipped my memory. I was talking to my longtime friend Scott Garner, our upcoming guest partner, and neither of us really remembered it. So got to get this thing going again to make that front of mind, right?
Well, some investigative reporting to happen before we get to game day. We got to find the cup, or we could just not find it. Rice wins and Rice gets to keep it. That make it nice and easy.
You're the report. But you're the report.
I moonlight, right? We will instead of hearing us, spectate on what SMU might be, we kind of thought it might be best to go in and ask the experts, so to say. So I guess we'll bring our guest right on. We got Rich Phillips, voice of the Mustangs, right now joining us here to kind of fill us in so we don't talk wildly. We have some informed intel on the Mustangs. Thanks for joining us, Rich.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys. By the way, I don't think I've ever seen the Mayor's Cup either. And I've done plenty of SMU Rice games, but I don't think I've ever seen such a thing.
Okay, so we're not too far off. We need to make this a bigger deal.
Right. Have you guys at least seen the Bayou Bucket, I hope?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and won that. I know that is no love lost on your end either.
Not at all. No. Not at all.
A mutual sharing of anyway. Rich, thanks for joining us. You've been doing this Mustangs thing forever and a day. I wanted to start from the top down with Coach Lashley. I got to bend his ear a little bit last time I saw you at Media Day and just was taken to his, like a professorial type of mad scientist type of vibe he's got going from his Miami days and now with you guys up on the hilltop. Just what has he done to really get this back going in the right direction for you guys?
He's been great, I think. And of course, he had a history here at SMU. He was on Sonny Dykes' staff in 2018 and 19 as the offensive coordinator, then went to Miami for those 2 seasons. But I think he has done a tremendous job of making this his team, making it his program, very invested in it, invested in the university as well. But I've been very impressed with how he has just jumped right in. This is his first head coaching job, too, in college football, and you almost wouldn't know it by the way he has handled things these 2 seasons.
Yeah, I want to kick things off. It's interesting to me as I kind of look through this, and when you think Rhett Lashley, you think SMU, points and high-flying offenses, yeah, that check the box. But I don't think anybody was expecting the defensive turnaround they've had this season. You go look, one of the worst defenses in the American last year, and you could make a pretty good argument that they might be the best in this conference this time around. So I guess we'll start off on that side of the ball. What was the secret sauce, the magic tweak that has kind of got the ponies going?
It's the portal, no doubt. I mean, like 8 guys that start regularly on this defense are straight out of the transfer portal this year. They've been a huge difference, starting with, I believe, the 2 cornerbacks that they've got, Charles Woods from West Virginia, Chris Meganson, who transferred from Liberty, which, by the way, is where defensive coordinator Scott Simons was before he came to SMU. Those guys, I think, have made everybody better on the defense because, first off, they couldn't cover anybody. Now they can with these 2 guys. And then because they cover so well, it makes the front 7 that much better, especially the defensive line. They get so much more pressure. And not to say that everybody that here couldn't play any defense. So a lot of the returnees are still playing. They play so many guys. I don't know that they have one player on their defense that's ranked in the top 25 in the conference in tackles per game. You look at last week, they gave up 10 points to Tulsa, and nobody had more than 5 tackles on this defense. Same thing the week before in a shutout against Temple. They're playing so deep, so many guys play, and definitely the transfer portal has made the biggest difference, though, with them bringing in so many guys.
Coach Bloomgren was talking on our different communiques this week about McGill at safety. Is there a particular strength of the defense? Do you think it's the line? Like I know in the past, y'all, even the 500 and even the bowl teams, you've always had a solid defensive line. What do you think is the strength of the defense so far?
Again, I think those corners are huge, and they've made that defensive line so good. And the line is deep. they're playing 10 guys regularly in their front four. They can get pressure from so many different areas. They've got two guys that transferred from Miami, where Rhett Lashley, of course, was the offensive coordinator. Elijah Roberts and Jordan Miller playing on that defensive line. They've been huge additions. But then veteran guys like Nelson Paul's getting a lot of pressure off the edge. And also Elijah Chapman there inside at defensive tackle. He has been huge, as he has been for several years. And you can see those guys that have been major factors for them up front, but they're just playing against so many guys. They are so deep that front line has been so effective.
And then, you kind of talk big picture with the transfer portal. I think this is interesting because this is something that I think is becoming more and more prevalent in college football as the transfer portal becomes a mainstay for so many teams, is that everybody brings in these guys who, were playmakers at another school and you want to transplant them. But to get going out of the box and be ready in week one with all these new pieces can be challenging. And then you kind of see SMU got a couple Power 5 opponents, their only losses so far this season. Has that just kind of been this growing process of, now that they've kind of gotten the thick of conference play, that they've kind of reached I don't know, full potential, or getting to where they thought this team might be able to go?
Some definitely on the offensive side. I think that's been a little more with trying to gel there. Defensively, they actually played pretty well in the Oklahoma game. It was 14-11 in the fourth quarter before Oklahoma put up a couple of late touchdowns, but 28 is one of their lowest numbers of the year. Struggled a little bit maybe at TCU defensively, but I kind of feel like it was the offense more that's taken a little longer to get into stride to where they are. I mean, scoring 69 last week, 55 the week before. They look like they are finding their stride, maybe taking advantage of a couple of the opponents that have shown up on the schedule too in recent weeks. But defensively, with all those new bodies, I was really impressed with how quickly they kind of came around this year.
Yeah, speaking of offense, you hit there. Obviously, the quarterbacks get the bona fides and the accolades. You got local product Preston Stone, if I'm remembering right, the highest ranked recruit in this rankings era. Matthew delves into that on the Rice side a lot. But tell us about Stone, how he can spin it. And I'd say throwing for, 350 in the first half is a halfway decent first half, Rich.
Yeah, he didn't even finish the first half last week against Tulsa. It came out with about 5 minutes to go in the second quarter. It was a career high 371, I think was his final number last week against Tulsa throwing the football. Preston actually can be a dual threat guy too. He could run pretty well, has a few touchdowns on the ground this season. He's done a terrific job of just coming in and making this team his own. And he also did something that's unusual in college football these days. He waited. I mean, he redshirted, sitting behind Tanner Mordecai, and then he was a freshman last year that played a little bit behind Tanner Mordecai, but he waited for his chance. He knew it would come. Tanner transferred on to Wisconsin this year, and so Preston's been handed the reins to the offense, and he's just 9 games. He started 1 last year, so 9 starts in his career, and he's really starting to come into form. But the biggest thing from day one has just been he's been in control of his team, I think.
And then we kind of haven't touched on it yet, but some of the guys that Preston is throwing to, I know it's, you want to have the quarterback, but having playmaking pieces around him can be a huge factor too. I know Rice fans are familiar with Jake Valey, who's back from injury this year, but other pieces that are kind of making an impact.
Again, kind of like on defense, it's a lot. They have had at least 8 players catch a pass in every game this season. Therefore, nobody's got huge numbers at wide receiver. Last week, I think 4 or 5 receptions led the team, and I think Jake Bailey has the most receptions in a single game this year with just 7, which isn't a ton for a team that throws it a lot. Bailey's been a real solid force, though, for them in the slot receiver role. They have 2 Miami transfers that have played well. Romello Brinson has come on in recent weeks. Keyshawn Smith has been really solid. Jordan Curley is kind of the guy that can stretch the defense with his speed. And then another guy, Jordan Hudson, who transferred from TCU this year to SMU, is the guy who I think's going to wind up being their number 1 down the road. And then tight end is a huge weapon too. It's RJ Maryland. He has 5 touchdown catches this year, gives him 11 in his career. He's a sophomore and he's already second in tight end touchdown catches in SMU history. And RJ is really starting to emerge as the guy we thought he was going to be when he came out of South Lake Carroll a couple years ago.
Yeah, that
How
was
do you
one
see
of the things that surprised me most jumping in, looking at just the stat sheet. No receivers over 319 yards is the leading receiver. When you have a quarterback that's thrown for 2,000 plus, that was not something I was expecting to see.
Yeah, it's a stark difference from last year when Rashee Rice led the nation in receiving yardage, and now, of course, plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. And early on, I felt like it was hampering them a little bit because nobody was really emerging, and it seemed like guys didn't win those 50-50 balls. But now, even in their limited snaps they all get, they are starting to really step forward, and a number of those guys are really kind of coming into their own.
We've seen a lot of tempo from SMU this year. Rice has had some issues with tempo against USF, but where does the pace of things go? I mean, I've seen you guys play, but is it constant? Do you like to sprinkle it in? What does Coach Lashley and Coach Woods, their OC, like to do?
It is fairly constant until they get a big lead, like we've seen the last 2 weeks. Then they definitely take their foot off the pedal, but they do like to hurry up. They will try to go fast. I think Rhett Lashley would like to see 80 snaps a game if they could do it. They haven't done it very much this season. And again, some of it's been, especially in recent weeks, you get to big leads. You just don't want to snap it that many times. You want to shorten the game up, but they would like to have 80 snaps per game. And definitely the head coach calls the plays. He's an offensive coach. He's going to call as many plays as he can.
And then a couple big picture winding thoughts. If there's one thing that you think SMU really needs to be careful about, one thing they got to make sure that they do this weekend to walk out of Houston with a win, what's kind of your X factor?
Obviously, it's the quarterback. JT Daniels is the guy they've got to slow down. I think they'll look to do it some with their pass rush. We may see a little more blitzing out of them because they believe they can cover things up one-on-one a little better in the secondary. That's going to be the primary focus, I think, defensively for SMU, is to shut down the quarterback. And then offensively, it's just keep doing their thing. You know, we didn't even talk about running backs, but again, they've got 4 guys they're rolling out there at running back. Nobody with massive numbers, but all of them have been pretty productive. And I think they look to just kind of keep things rolling on the offensive side of the ball.
All right, big picture, all that fun, X's and O's out of the way. Moving to the ACC from the AAC could be a tongue twister, but I know that will probably be a boon to recruiting. And obviously, you guys have done so much well so far. But with that news coming right before the start of the season, and you're going to be going to Cameron Indoor for hoops and get Clemson coming in for football here soon. So how exciting is that for you personally? You've been there forever and a day, and just how cool of a story that's been to see you guys make that leap forward.
So that was September 1st, the day before the season started, when the announcement came down. And I would say it's the biggest news regarding the SMU athletics since the death penalty came about in 1987. And obviously a little bit better news than that death penalty, but just a massive step forward for SMU and for their athletics program. And doing it by not taking TV money either for 7 or 9 years, whatever it is. But then they raised $100 million in the first week after the announcement, as they're looking to get donations so that they can compete on the same level with those schools. It's certainly exciting. At times, I look at some of those teams that just left the American and went to the Big 12, and I get a little concerned about how their future is, how their present is, and how our future may be. But this week, the schedule pairings, the schedule model for the next 7 years was announced by the ACC. And knowing that Florida State's coming to Ford Stadium next year is a pretty exciting thing, I think, for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
You had to chuckle just a little bit, though, when you saw them put out a schedule model for 7 years, because
yeah, we'll see how many of those are still around in 7 years, of course. But we all have to be planning, and we all have to be optimistic.
Amen. Hey, thanks, Rich. It's been so fun. We'll get to see you in passing this one season for hoops as well. And Matthew, I've got to get this dig in as we go. We've got 2 Rangers fans here on the podcast, and we're outnumbering Matthew as understandably Astros through and through, but he's still a good guy, Rich. So let's hope our little Red Shoe Rangers can finish this off. Okay.
We let it slide for now, I guess.
We want to start counting rings. We got 2. How many do you have?
Hopefully when most people see this, we'll have 1. How's that?
It's coming. It's coming. I love the optimism. See you. Let's talk offline too, Rich, but see you Saturday, and safe travels. Don't let Scott talk too much. You got to keep him in line. Right.
Impossible task you've given me there.
Amen to that. Thank you, Rich. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. That's the great Rich Phillips, longtime voice of the SMU Mustangs. You know, I had to do it. I had to give you that dig towards
Wait
the
for
end,
it.
Matthew. I'm
The
still
Dallas
operating.
folk.
I'm very little sleep. I'm not totally Dallas folk, but lived near Houston more of my life than Dallas. But even it was an hour outside of Dallas anyway. But yeah, Rich is awesome, good dude. And I late programming. I forgot that I had Bordy there at the disposal in the on deck circle. But you're the director here. You're the large man in charge. What do you think? Where do you want to go next with this?
Well, I want to hit a little bit because we talked about it briefly there at the end. Just the unusualness of what is happening right now in the world of college football. The fact that this is the one shot that Rice gets at this game. I think that is particularly peculiar in itself because when the news came that Rice was coming to the American, 100 years ago, it feels like at that time, I guess it was 2 years ago, that kind of broke the top of mind. What a bunch of Owls fans were talking about was the fact that they get to rekindle the rivalry with SMU. That was near the top of the list. So for this to be a one shot thing, I was talking with people this week, within the program, and I was like, you want to win both games. You want to beat Tulane, you want to beat SMU. But knowing that this is your only chance at SMU, unless they schedule a non-conference, which could happen, but maybe not. Which one do you want to win more? And the resounding answer was this one.
Yes. And can I immediately hog the mic back? And
yeah,
I'm pulling up some quotes from Jake Bailey yesterday. Dallas area guy. They had 2 Dallas area guys at the podium, like Houston area somewhat. Houston's much bigger in the landscape geography wise. The Dallas is certainly getting there, but they had Jack Bradley on, senior tight end. This is his one and only shot against SMU. Remind me on my little sleep and World Series watching to circle back to that, because Jack Bradley has a cool anecdote that I'm saving for the broadcast, but I want to give fans an exclusive nugget here too that would make for a great story. I'm not writing your columns here, articles here, Matthew, but it's fantastic what he told me. But Play Wyatt did not hold back.
I might have already put that up on my notes from the presser last night.
Good. See, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. And I apologize for not digesting those already, but you're always on the spot. So Play, Al's career high tackle leader last week against the Greenies, he had a chance to play with Preston Stone in high school. Parish Episcopal is allowed to recruit and play with such a stalwart at McKinney Boyd, the Broncos there north of town. And he elected to go back to McKinney Boyd. So he knows Preston Stone still pretty well. He said he's staying away from the text messages this week because he knows so many guys, because they still have a lot of the Dallas guys. But he said, I feel like it's personal going against SMU. And he said, this is going to be a game that we look back years from now and going to be talking trash about it and saying, hey, we got y'all that one year. Y'all got us this one year, whatnot. So, yeah, it's personal. And Play did not mince words. And that's refreshing that he it felt, even though none of these guys have played against SMU, that, yeah, they know with the geography and with Rice having so many of the Metroplex guys and still a lot of Houston guys, that rivalry, I think, I mean, it's still out there. Maybe not on the field, but it's still out there. And Play really did not hold back and said, hey, I feel like it's personal in this one against the Ponies.
Yeah, it didn't take much to get that started up coming out of the blue. Play's first offer coming out of high school was SMU. And when he recruited to Rice, he said he was committed to Rice. He said the first thing he told his dad is, I really wish we played SMU. And lo and behold, here we are, at least for this one time. So I think that's neat. And I think you kind of look perspective of the season. If you told Rice fans, black box, just look at the season. You got to win over Houston. You beat SMU and you beat UTSA. You'd care how the rest of the season went. But if I told you get those 3 things in your bowling, that's about Christmas morning, right? Like, as good as it can get. And all of that is still on the table.
Yeah, you definitely get the A for that one. That would be Christmas morning. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sign me up. I will check onto that. So I think that is notable. I wanted to start there as we kind of joke. And side note, who had on their bingo card that Rice would be playing Army in an American Conference game before they played Navy in an
Mhm.
American Conference game, because the world is a flat circle. I do want to hit a little bit. We talked a little bit SMU, talked big picture, a little bit on the Rice side. Kind of, we usually do this at the beginning of the show. We'll back up, kind of twist things around. Hang with us, everybody. Strap on your seatbelts. Kind of thoughts on the Tulane game as we kind of close out. What do you kind of take away from that game? And then I'll start off kind of something that I noticed from the post game presser as everybody is sitting around and Bloomgren is fielding questions, like, you got to make you feel good that you can play so close with this great team, and just the temperature in the room and kind of oozing off of, head football coach himself was just kind of like of an angst of like, I don't feel good about the fact that we played so close. Like he does. And he said all the right things. It's a good litmus test for our program. We thought we, won, but just the sense that that was one that got away, that Rice felt like they should have won. I think as we talk about these steps up as a program, the fact that you are playing, the perennial bell winner, not perennial, I guess, at least one time defending champs, we'll say that, in your conference, and you play them straight up within 2 points. I think we're kind of watching an evolution. And my theory is, if we're watching that evolution, then I think they need to find a way to win this game this weekend. I think that validates the proof of concept. If you can go heads up against the top 2-ish teams in your conference and you split, I think that's a step forward from where they've been. So I guess I'm cheating in giving you two things: Tulane, After Effects, and forecast for SMU. But your kind of takeaway sitting there calling the game against Tulane. Yes, take notes, young one.
I think if you don't have the bad start, bad-ish start, you win that game. And Bloom said as much to me Monday night, and that theory still holds true to SMU, because where was it? I don't have it up on this window here, but it's something like 102-17. SMU is outscoring the opponents. Going into the Tulane game, Rice was outscoring opposition. What was it, 90-13?
90-13, I think, something like that.
And then, but Tulane was good. They weren't that big wide of a margin, but you saw as the game progressed, once they settled down and started trekking back in it. I mean, what was it, 20-7 at the half, or 27-7 at the break? And then they started making that comeback, clawing in, but they were always chasing. They weren't getting chased. And yeah, exactly. 20. I was trying to give a little more points to the good guys, but they were always chasing. And when you're getting chased and you're a number 22 team, you know how to play that game. And there were very few imperfections in that game. Nobody ever plays a perfect game, but look at the way Tulane managed the last couple minutes. It was very awkward, and it was very odd, as we were discussing had to get my Rice advanced degree in mathematics to figure out what both sides were doing there. But they had enough time on the clock, and they eventually won that one. And you parlay that into the second part of your question. You got to have a better start. And to be able to beat SMU going out of the conference, because a lot of people think, my coach referenced to it in his presser yesterday, this is a game for a lot of the letter winners, obviously being homecoming. And they have a lot of fond memories against SMU. And to be able to get a win against them would be another litmus test to prove that this thing is going in the right direction. So, yeah, this one is pretty big coming up here. And I also gave you, I don't know if you saw me slip that in there, scoring points early is a good thing. If I break out the dry erase board and score more points, that's better. So
also, and I have this stat for those that, if you're not reading up on our post game stuff, I'd encourage you to do that, because we find some good nuggets. Nuggets. I'm a numbers guy. I like numbers. Here's a number for you. I haven't recalculated it since this game, but I'll have to go do that now after Tulane. But going into Tulane, in the second quarter this season, against FBS teams. So I'm taking out the Texas Southern game. Against FBS teams, Rice is averaging 4.7 points per game in the second quarter. 4.7.
I'm writing that down right now.
4.7. Every other quarter, everything but the second, 9.6 points per game. So simple math. Rice is twice as productive as in every other quarter but the second. I don't know what it is, but it's been kind of, I feel like they're scripted plays out of the gate. We talked about 90-13 in the first quarter. That's going. Whatever that lull is between those scripted plays right out of the book and getting into full game mode, that second quarter, Rice has not figured it out this year. They just don't score in the second quarter. And you got to play a 4-quarter football game. You know, we've been begging for a long time for this team to be able to find a way to play fourth quarters. And I think from what we've seen so far this year, they've gotten pretty darn good at fourth quarters. They played about as well as you could in the fourth quarter. Now it's the second. We got to circle back. Let's play the second, and we'll get there. So I don't know. I thought that was particularly interesting, and I don't have a good answer for it either.
The only caveat I'd say is that, yeah, Bloom did mention, I think it was Monday night with me, that it is the first 15 or so. I don't think there was a firm number, but 15 plays or so that are scripted at the beginning. So that could be just the first quarter. But, and when it comes back to number 18 back there, that's a big reason for their first start, their fresh, hot starts. But yeah, just finding a way to boost up that lull. Again, we break out the football math that scoring more points in a quarter is all are in favor of that. Can I tell you my Jack Bradley note that he told me that I don't think he said it on air? So Jack Bradley, Al's tight end, fourth-year guy, Rice House Insider Pod. You can go hear our chat that we had Monday night, and the Al's Athletics YouTube page has the full conversation with him. But something Coach Bloomgren said and his wrap up as we previewed SMU got me thinking, it's like, okay, I'm going to pull at that string a little bit more. So it just the timing, you know how press conferences go, the framing of it. And plus I just wanted to, you can get a little bit of a
inside baseball. Here we go.
Yeah. Inside base. There you go. Appropriate. Voila. Magnifique. So I asked Jack after, right in between, I talked to Nate. Nate's talking to Jack in the pregame. So Jack Bradley would not be at Rice University if it was not for Tina Langley, Rice former women's basketball coach. He told me that Scott Vestal, you remember when Coach Bailiff left, and before, I think this was even before Coach Bloomgren was officially hired there in that December, math is hard, 17, right? We're thinking December 17.
Scott Vestal was the only one only carryover still on staff.
Good dude, Scott Vestal. The only guy that was a Rice coach was Scott Vestal. Well, Jack's like, I don't know. But Tina Langley, the Rice very successful women's basketball coach now at Washington, she was best friends and is best friends with Jack's mom, who was an SMU basketball coach and had coached at Trinity in the past and was an all-conference basketball player. Sorry, Matthew, hold your ears. At the University of Texas. So, man, that I'm getting chills thinking about that. One, how one little connection like that changes a life forever. And Jack was recruited heavily by SMU. He told me, he told us, UTSA also, but Jack was, I don't want to speak for him, but just kind of paraphrasing, he was like, it's Coach Vestal. He was the only guy. But Coach Langley, convinced the family to, hey, come down here. And she actually led Jack partly on that recruiting visit here at Rice. He was sold for Rice. And then, as the late, great Paul Harvey would say, that's the rest of the story. You can only tie that into an SMU week. It's just appropriate that he goes out there and has 6 catches, 89 yards, and a couple of tutties, right?
That's what we're right. I got my notepad. I'm writing that one down. 689 and a couple of tutties. You would take that, man.
A great story.
That's crazy. I got a little rice goosebumps coming out all over. I'm in, man. I'm ready. I'm pumped up. I can go run through the wall now, and we still got a couple more days until game day. But it should be a good one.
Anything, I think, going into this one, any final keys? Here, I'm taking the steering wheel, I guess, now, but
Making me do my homework?
no, what do you think? Like, what if there's going to be one thing, like you ask Rich, I'll turn it around and ask you on a Rice perspective, what's Rice got to do after you've delved deep into this Mustangs depth chart?
I think you need 4 havoc plays on defense.
Okay.
I think this might not be right, but this is my interpretation of what the Rice defense is this year. I think this is not a defense that is constructed intentionally to get a shutout. I think this is a defense that gives up points and gives up yards, but because they are so aggressive and because they take so many risks, they can get away with that. You look at drives that they stop people in the red zone. You look at all those field goals they hold to. You look at turnovers. You look at sacks. You look at pressure on the quarterback. I think if you get some combination of that big sack on third down, an interception, a big breakup on third down, there's going to be 3 or 4 moments on defense in this game that matter a lot. And I'm sorry, I don't see a 13-10 game incoming. I see a 42-35 game incoming with these 2 offenses and these 2 quarterbacks. You know, Rice defense proved me wrong. A 42-0 shutout would be wonderful. But I think if Rice is going to win this game, you find those 4 moments that you circle after the game. You're like, man, if they would have just we said it against Tulane. If they would have just been able to get off the field. Michael Pratt had the long run on third down. They had the 4th and 1 conversion. You just circle it. You got to get a couple of those. If you can get those plays on defense, this offense is going to take care of you. And I think we have a defense that even if Josh Piercy is not on the field, can make enough of those big play moments that could be the difference.
This is me nodding in approval. My leave it to the writer to have the long, great vocal answer there. I will
maybe not eloquent, but long.
No, I followed it. Just a couple state school guys here. I think the key is the first quarter. I come back to that with that margin, whatever it is, like 109-17. So I don't have the exact digits, but SMU shows no mercy. Hey, kids, remember that USF game? Over the top, over the top, over the top. If the Owls can find if they can handle those aggressive deep shots against the Mustangs early, that could set the tone for the game. And yeah, like Coach mentioned during the presser, I love piggybacking what coaches say because, oh yeah, he said that too. Well, I'm just repeating what the coach said. That's my little secret. If they can make things uncomfortable for Stone back there. But man, this is a big offensive team coming in here. They've got to hold the fort down in the beginning of the game.
Is that Gabe Taylor's music I hear? Sounds like it.
It's supposed to be? Oh, okay. No, okay. You're not talking about this.
Not actual music. Okay. I'm just saying, hey, Gabe Taylor told the ESPN broadcast crew going into Tulsa that he was going to get a pick 6. He got a pick, and then he got dragged down at the 3-yard line this coming weekend. So maybe it's coming, man.
Yeah, and then
a good weekend for it.
Oh, so close. Oh, so close. Matthew, we did it again. Congrats.
Hey, they keep putting us in front of those mics, and we keep talking. Special talents. Look at us go. We will be back next week. We'll talk about we got UTSA on the schedule, another trip to the Alamo Dome. They're still going to be in the American next year, right? As far as I know at the moment. So yeah, not a one-shot there, but a game. Yeah, right. This season, we'll go week by week, game by game, go 1-0 each week. We'll go 1-0 at doing this podcast or however we do that. We'll show up and talk or something like that. But we'll see you next week. Undefeated. Going into the break. We got UTSA next week. We'll talk that. Wrap up SMU. We got a couple more of these left. Love doing it with you, JP. We have fun.
Yes, sir. I love doing it with you. And quick selfish plug, Rice House Insider podcast. Not only these episodes, the Bloom shows, but just talked to Director of Athletics, Tommy McClellan. We had a good long 20-minute chat. So folks can go see that. That is already out there for the masses.
You're going to have to give us all the answers. Another good man. All right. We will stop rambling. You have to tune in next week. We'll start rambling again. We'll keep the conversation going. Until then, as JP, I'm Matthew Bartlett. We will be back next week. See you later. Rice Fight.
Never dies, baby. Never dies. SMU's in Dallas. It's in Dallas. They're playing in Houston. in Houston, right, Matthew? They're playing in Houston. All right.
Allegedly. Arlington, or what is it?
Hey,
Highland Park?
hey.